followed by the phantom. He finds you.
G'day everyone, this is X-Men, the Phantom podcast, episode 302. Our website is chroniclechamber.com and you can subscribe to these podcasts via YouTube or through your favourite podcast app. We're in a bit of a hurry this afternoon, so we're just going to rip straight into it. Welcome to the podcast. I'm Dan Fraser and with me are Stephen and Jermaine. How are you guys?
G'day,
Good.
everyone.
G'day all. Hope you're all doing well and staying
Well,
safe.
yeah, pertinent at the moment because there's a cyclone in my neck of the woods, which is something I never thought I would actually say out loud. But it turns out to be where I live in particular, a bit of a placid cyclone. It's certainly not as bad as what they were predicting, which is an absolute relief. But anyway, to try and take your mind off whatever troubles are around you, whether they're geographical or climactical or personal or whatever it is, hopefully we
Or
can have a little bit
political.
of fun. Or more political,
Yeah,
whatever it might
I
be.
noticed how he didn't say anything there, and yeah, let's just let that one slide.
Yeah.
No better way to take your mind off the real world dramas than by reading some fandom comics. So, in the podcast today, we're going to have a look at some all the comics that have been released through February of 2025 and any of the news that has come to light in that period of time. And it's amazing how much can happen in the Phantom world every month. So, let's get stuck straight into it, guys, by looking at the progress of the newspaper strips or the Comics Kingdom strips, starting with daily 268. The Spark, and this began with the retelling of The Oath. It's the first time we've seen that in a while, and I know we chatted about this with the creators on the episode 300, but having seen it, guys, in real life now, what were your thoughts on a retelling of The Oath finally?
I loved it.
I enjoyed it. Yeah, I thought it was great. Yeah, we've got a question here. Is it a standalone story or for those who came late? It's definitely for those who came in late. It's just
Is
an
it?
expanded version of it. Yes,
Is
it
it?
is.
Is it?
It's yes, because it's off. For those who came in late because it's only 2 weeks. But I think there might be a kernel in there to really explore, a bit more of the first Phantom.
Okay. To argue against your point, I'm going to go to the end of this, which if you're on YouTube, you'll be able to see this. If you're not on YouTube, I'll describe it the best I can, where it says, so this is on the 8th of February, where it says Monday, the Spark. So normally they have these panels when it is the end of that story, and then the next week, i.e. Monday, is the start of the new story. So
Ah,
normally, if it was the
uh,
way, and this is just what I think, it would be on the first day of the Origins storytelling.
I'm going to counter that, and you kind of dug yourself into it because you say normally, not always, not every time, but normally. Now, there've been a lot of times when a story's been introduced, and if I knew you're going to come back with that argument, I'll say a week after, say like a week of introducing us to a story, they might give us the title, on the Friday or the Saturday, whatever it is, ready for Monday. Might be and so begins the spark, or and so begins the frogman, or whatever the story was at the time. Like this isn't part of the spark story. It is a retelling of the of for those who came in late. And I don't think that, once again, I've got to look at my thing, but it's just like a little prelude to it. It's for those who came in late. It's just part of it.
Mm.
Yeah, I'm with Steve on this one. What is this daily 268, which goes for 2 weeks, and then the Spark is daily 269? No, it's not a complete story. It's a little prelude. It's 2 weeks, which is a longer than for those who came in late usually has been. I'll grant you that. And yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing the whole thing dragged out to a full story, if it was a full story. But no, this counts as the start of 268.
The reason why I asked that is because that's something that I wondered. There's been a couple of others that have questioned this, including the KFS archivist as well. who we are led to believe that actually asked the same question to Tony DePaul: is it a standalone story or is it part of the Spark? So there's been a couple of people that have questioned it. So if you are one of those, or if you are in camp, Steve and Dan's in their camp, let us know. We would love to hear your thoughts. Because, yeah, I still think that it could be a standalone story, which will then make it the shortest daily story. But when we did ask Tony, he saw it as part of the Spark. So
Cool. Well, then
Well,
I
I
think
think
that's
that's
I
pretty
think
probably
much the
yeah, I
argument
think
over.
that's where we keep it for now. But
yeah, where I'd like to see this is so that it is constantly front of mind when people go to the Comics Kingdom page at the very least.
mm,
I don't know how many of our viewers, our listeners go to the Comics Kingdom page to read their comic strips. It'd have to be some. And every time you go there, for whatever reason, just very randomly, there's a couple of strips from a 2015 story by Terry Beattie featuring Hojo, who is actually, it looks more like a Hojo comic strip than a Phantom comic strip. There's no
yeah,
Phantom. There's Mr. Walker in a couple of panels. But it's mostly about Hojo, who is a sidekick of Mandrake's and this is one of the very few Mandrake Phantom crossover stories. It's just a really weird and random couple of panels to be on the landing page of Comics Kingdom slash the Phantom. I reckon a couple of these strips should be the two that you see, so that people who are coming to the strip for the first time see that and catch up on it for those who came in late when they
I
arrive.
couldn't agree more. I do
yeah,
like the Terry's
this
art,
panel here.
and I do like Hojo, but he looks a lot like Jake Blues, you know? And I love the Blues Brothers. It's my favorite movie, but it's not the Phantom.
The
Yeah.
7th of February will be probably my choice, where it talks about Captain Walker being died, he dies, then the son being avenged, and then swearing the oath. If I was
Yeah.
to choose one panel, I reckon this panel here would be the best one to be chosen as that.
No, I think we've discussed a little bit on previous podcasts, but look, just to say I really enjoyed it. And I think that probably once every, I don't know, pick a number, 4 years,
Yep.
they probably need to do a retelling of the oath type thing, whether it's only a week rather than the fortnight like they've gone for here. But it's certainly something that I enjoy seeing come back from time to time. And I think every Phantom artist who works on the strip probably deserves the opportunity to do one.
Mm.
To my knowledge, Mike Manley hasn't done one yet. As I said, yeah. So
He
and
has
this
now.
is. Oh, sorry, this is him. Jeff Weigel hasn't done one yet. Sorry. I think every artist probably deserves a chance to have a crack at it as they go through.
Mm. Jeff he's done about half a Sunday. I think it was one of the Sunday stories where about half the was the retelling of the oath. But you're right, it would be nice to see him. I think it would also be nice if they kind of explore different elements every time they do the retelling
Hmm.
of the oath. Like for this 2 weeks, it was a lot on the relationship between the father and son. So maybe the next retelling of the oath could maybe even start here, i.e., the death, and then linger a little bit in the relationship and the creation of the friendship between the Banda tribe and the first Phantom. So there's different elements they can focus on. You don't have to focus all on once. So, maybe Jeff does it for 2 Sundays and he focuses a little bit on the relationship between the Banda and but you're still retelling the oath because some people only read the Sunday stories in the newspaper, and so it allows the potential new readers to also catch up on the origin of the Phantom.
So, would you be leaning into like a retelling of the Osaka story? The Osaka Giants versus the Bandar Pygmies.
Okay, that's a good question because one of the questions that we actually had, which we from a fan, which we passed on to Tony DePaul, was is the Wasaka tribe storytelling a little bit problematic with a white savior complex? And I think you can still, I think you could do that and just retell it a little bit where it's more the Banda are being the more the heroes, or you can just not include that and you can just focus on a relationship building with the first Phantom and Banda. Like, I don't think you have to have that story for them to be able to focus on the great relationship between the Banda and the Walker family. because you got to remember it goes over 20, 21 generations, 27 if you're defenders of the earth and stuff like that, which is, 400, 500, 600 years. So, um, yeah, I think there's ways to potentially bypass that potentially sticky wicket, which some people might not be able to handle.
All right, we
Okay.
better move on because we've now spent a fair bit of time talking about this little 2 week period, and we've got a lot to get through in a short period of time this afternoon. So let's move on to the start of the daily story, the spark. Now, we do know from our chat with um, the creators, Mike Manley and Tony DePaul, and more particularly, I suppose, the responses that Tony DePaul gave in written form. And you can certainly read those on our website. Encourage everyone to go back and do that because it's a great insight into, well, not just this, but all things Tony DePaul and his responses were fantastic. We appreciate that. But anyway, to focus on this story, it really does focus on Kit, and it looks like it's focusing on his journey back to Tibet. But in the meantime, he stopped at Mohitan to pop in on Heloise and I guess for this first time properly meet Cardia. And in the week ahead, in particular, we see Heloise really playing matchmaker with Kit and Cardia. So, what do you make of the start of this story so far, guys?
I
I've
enjoy
been
it.
enjoying it. Yeah, it's we see what's happening up there in the was it the Mountain Kingdom or whatever it's called, and we know that Savannah has gone up and got rid of Jumper, but everything's kind of good, I guess, because Kabji Doji, is that his name? He hasn't been implicated into it all, so they've kind of dodged that bullet there. So even though he wasn't able to dodge a bullet, I might add. Um,
Yeah, our beloved Mountain City has dodged a bullet while the person's taking a bullet out of him. It's kind of a nice little ironic little point there.
I love it.
yeah,
My mastery of the technique is inconsistent. That's one
yeah,
of my favorite lines in a while.
yeah,
This
yeah.
is on the 20th
I
of
did
January.
chuckle at that one. Yeah, crikey, that's been a while ago now. But yeah, and so starts Kit's journey to, is he going to stay in Mauritania or is he going to, has he now journeyed home and he's back home now, or is the pull back to the mountain city that strong to, to go back to Manju? We see these letters between the two of them and what have you, these notes. So it's an interesting dynamic that he's in, and Cardia doesn't want any part of it. But at this stage, when we're looking at what's still in February, she hasn't really met Kid yet. It's a bit over Heloise telling her that she's going to love him.
Mm. It's so some fans in reading some commentary online, social media, Reddit, and also Comics Kingdom, there's been a few fans that are a little bit bemused by Heloise trying to, trying to murky the waters of like where Kit is and stuff like that. So basically, what was happening, from the way I understand it, is Heloise and Cardia are sisters, and then Kit is hopefully going to be the boyfriend, and so that's why Kit and Heloise can't be brother and sister because that just looks a little bit Tasmanian. Um, so that's why there's this little awkward little moment here. So yeah,
And it's
so
awkward seeing as they're twins and they look very, very
yeah,
similar.
yeah, 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 yeah. And then you've got Cardia's, has a different, he's not exactly white Caucasian with blue eyes and blonde hair like Heloise. So yeah, so I think that was a
Hopefully, Mrs. Daft is daft by name and daft by nature.
yeah. I think it was a little bit confusing for some fans, just because like when that was explained, it was like a few years ago and a lot has happened. So yeah, so I think a few fans were a little bit daft, a little bit confused as well. But I think it's a little bit more as you kind of go along, it sort of explains itself. But look, I'm enjoying it. It's a great title, The Spark, where you've got a bit of a, the spark between Manju, Kit, and also Cardia as well.
But
And then
also this
also,
thing you got going on here. Yeah.
yeah, the further development of relationship with Colonel Werbu as well, which is nice as well. It's only 2 panels, half a day, but it kind of progresses that storyline that might happen in the future as well.
Oh, it's a great little way of slipping in some character development
Mm.
for Colonel Werribee. I mean, I didn't see that coming in this
No.
story, and I can't say that there's ever been much talk of Colonel Werribee having a romantic interest or side to him much at all, other than President Luaga and Miss Targamar. There's hasn't been that sort of romantic development of many of the side characters, I would have thought.
Warrable does have the thing going on with the cafe owner. He's been doing
Yeah.
that for a while now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
There was also a Team Phantom End story where there was he was in love with a woman. They spent a night together, read into the air quotes as you will. She ran off with someone else, and then it found out that the someone else actually broke them up, and he married her. But the end of the story was kind of indicated that their son was actually Colonel Wurubu's son, but that story has still kind of been left into the ether. So there's been a few little developments, but you're right, nothing. He's pretty much been a bachelor married to his job, so it's nice to see a little bit of development of that.
Well, the other thing I was going to say about this part of the story in particular, I think you can really see Mike Manley's history on Judge Parker in terms of being able
Yes.
to tell a soap opera and a drama, because this very much is a bit of a romantic soap opera type feel to it. And while I love Mike Manley's action scenes, and I know he really enjoys those too, I suppose at least he would be happy to for Tony DePaul that the romance isn't blossoming when they're all sitting on couches talking on phones. They're out on push bikes and at the beach and that sort of gear.
Yeah. It's worth making mention in our podcast 300th. One of the questions to the creators in the podcast, but also the written one, was is like the age of Kit and Heloise, but also like, are we able to get the best of both worlds where we can have the romantic elements with these characters and then have the Phantom being the married person, so you can kind of have romance, marriage. And so that was a good question. It was something that they talked about, something that Tony DePaul did talk about in his interview with us, with answering some of the questions, was that he sees Kit and Heloise staying at this age almost frozen in time, while the strip still happens, because you can't really so they're at about 18, 19,
I thought he
and
said
he kind of
17.
says, I thought it was a little bit older, but and then the Phantom at 42-ish. So yeah, so that was just interesting that that's kind of like where they're seeing these characters be at age for a little while. So again, it's worth reading and watching those interviews.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I wasn't sure in the first instance when I read through it about Heloise kind of being this almost giddy schoolgirl setting up a romance and like overexcited, making it all awkward. And like she's obviously been super keen on this for a while. And it came across, I found out immediately, I'm like, oh, geez, is this the same girl who kicked the Nomad's backside in a jetliner and life was threatened and all this sort of stuff? It's still it is good to still see that, okay, she's got this heroic action element to her, but she's still just a kid, like you said, that 18, 19-year-old type age, who's going to fluctuate like that. But hopefully we do see more action tendencies to her at different times as well.
Mm.
Well, there's 3 kids on left to their own devices in Moatown. What could happen?
True.
Well, Dan, you got teenage daughters.
Yeah, look, I'd rather see them kicking butt on a plane coming out of the sky.
Yeah, I'm just, be good if they come across a bank heist or something, something
Yeah,
like
exactly.
that's what I meant. I didn't mean that we're getting up to.
Right.
Yeah.
Who knows what nefarious action is gonna happen at the beach? All right. Well, that remains to be seen, and we'll probably cover that in our March Comics and News podcast. Let's move on to the Sunday, unless there's anything else you want to say about the daily, guys.
No,
All
let's
right.
move on
So
to the weekend.
the Princess of Songhai does seem to be wrapping up. It would be a surprise if we're still talking about it ongoing by the time we get to March. The princess has been found. The bad guys are dead. In fact, there might only be one or two more weeks left in it. It feels like. What has been your thoughts as we've read the last what feels like the concluding chapters of the Princess of Songhai?
It's a bit
I
of
think
killing.
that's yeah, a bit of death. I think that like they set out as a bit of a homage to the
Prince
creator
Valiant.
of Prince Valiant, and I think they've done that well. Like it reads like a Prince Valiant strip. All the good things are there. The way that Tony's constructed his story. He's been very deliberate with the way he's done it. Whose voice the story is being told in, and of course Jeff's art's phenomenal. Then you go to your subjective. Do you like the story or not? Yeah, I didn't mind it. It's not one of my favorites, but the fan goes in, he rescues the kid. The bad guys are gone. But it's very history laden, and I don't know enough about the history to get a full appreciation of it. That's my feeling of it.
Mm.
Mm-hmm. I agree with what you say about the different voices. Other than what the panel that you've got on the screen there now, Jen, which is the 9th of March. So it does feel very text heavy, this story, a very, very narrative voice heavy, I suppose. And I kind of like my comics to be dialogue driven, if you like, and not necessarily narrated. So this has been a very narrated story. Rather than dialogue. So probably I sit pretty similar to where you are, Steve. I like it as a story. I enjoy it for what it is. It won't go down as one of my favorite Sundays, but I certainly appreciate what the guys are doing here in terms of the way they've created it.
I enjoy the different take. I reckon this has probably been a challenge for Tony and Jeff. And I think
Yeah.
that's good because it probably keeps them fresh. Like you don't
Yes.
want them to be able to create the same thing all the time because it will just become ho-hum and then they'll get bored and then they'll move on. We want to keep Tony and Jeff and Mike creating the fandom for a while. And so doing stories like this, which is a little bit of a challenge, a little bit of a homage, doing the 2 weeks of the origin story, Mike being able to do the Phantom battling AI robots, which was something that he wanted to do. I think
Yeah.
these are all important little things that, yes, we have to read it, but they actually have to create it. Like we read this panel in a minute or so. It takes them days and days to be able to draw it and focus on it and edit it and color it and rewrite it and stuff like that. So I think it's important that they have elements that has their signature on it that challenges them, that keeps them interested in doing it. Because when they are at that, I think they produce a better story and a better better story.
Yeah. That's a really fair point. And, even as you say that, having come so recently off, and I know it was the Daily, but the Ian Mollusk story, I can't remember the name of that one now, but the Avarice has landed. The difference between that futuristic story or the, near present futuristic story versus this one, a historical retelling, it does. And I guess that's one of the great things about the Phantom as a character, isn't it? It gives you the opportunity to keep things fresh by telling different types of stories.
Hey, didn't one of his space projectiles or something just recently crash? Like actually in real life?
Yep.
I think I saw
Yep.
something in the news, but
Yeah.
that already happened in the story, so it's kind of ironic, isn't it?
Yeah.
Tony DePaul was able to foresee the future on that one. Before we move on, I just wanted to raise just a bit of a question, and again, this is something which I think we will leave for our listeners to comment about. Which way is the ring going up? Like in this panel here, which we're talking about the 9th of March. As you
Oh,
look at the hand, The ring is with the skull of the head with the jawbone. So the jawbone's on near the palm of the hand and the skull's kind of at the top for those who are on audio and can't see what I'm talking about. Is that the right way or should it be the other way?
The other way. I think it's
It
upside
should,
down in that picture.
yeah, I agree. It is upside down in this picture because if you wrap your knuckles up into a fist and punch someone with this, the skull mark's going to be upside down on their face. So uh, it is incorrect. I don't know if that's deliberate or just a mistake. I don't think Jeff Weigel makes many mistakes. I found it was I thought it was a shame actually that it was what I think is wrong on this because it was actually a really poignant day for the strip, and that was distracting for me. If it had been the other way around, I wouldn't have thought about that at all, and I would have just focused on the story. It was a really poignant moment. Those 8 panels or whatever they are, 6 panels, and it was a shame that detracted. But anyway, maybe that's just me.
Mm. The other thing I want to say is these, for those who have come in late, Jeff creates these new intro panels for every single story. As you said, this story obviously is wrapping up, which means Jeff will be creating a new one. I think and I don't know who it is, whether it's Frew, Phantom Man, KFS, whoever, but we have to make sure that we get more of we get these panels so it's not just in a newspaper. Whether Frew or Phantom Man create it as like every time they produce one of these stories, they do it as a poster inside the comic, or whether there's like a Frew or a Phantom Man or KFS or whoever, like a trading card series or something. But I would love to be able to see some of Jeff's work of these panels to be introduced as something more than just in the Sunday, as a collectible of some type.
Oh, I'd love it. You'd love to see the variety of those in a page of in a trading card book, wouldn't you?
Yeah, you've got some amazing artwork here that's been produced. It's just a waste not seeing it.
Well, that wraps up the newspaper stories. Let's move on to the Frew comics from Australia. So we want to jump to Frew issue 1989. I'll just grab that out so I can show that one. Now, this actually did arrive in on newsagent shelves and subscribers' mailboxes before 1988, which was the annual, for reasons which we went into when we talked about the annual. So this one's been out for a little while now. Deadly Conspiracy is the story. It's got the cover by Jason Paolos. Nice big wraparound cover by Jason Paolos. What did you think of this, guys?
Yeah, look,
Of the
I
cover.
enjoyed the cover. It was a good, solid cover. The Phantom's got his rings on. He's got a bit of a neck. Some Paulos's covers, the Phantom's head looks a little bit disjointed. I thought the lady with the mask was going to play a little bit more of a key role based on the cover. Probably the thing that I didn't like was, and I think this was a problem with the story as well, on the back cover, you've got the camera. I would have liked if the story and the cover kind of hid the way that the president was getting attacked by his health. If it was kind of more of a mystery throughout the story and on the cover.
Fair enough.
It looked like a party. I didn't even think about the camera on the back because I'm looking at the front cover, and didn't really notice the back cover till after I'd finished it. So it was hidden in the back, but hidden in plain sight for me.
Yeah. I actually enjoyed it.
So the plot for Deadly Conspiracy by Norman Worker and George Bess. The president of Bengala's neighbor, Ivory Lana, President Garanda, has been ill and has been fitted with a pacemaker. This has all been kept very hush-hush so as not to alert the country, especially with his impending nuptials on the way. However, word has gotten out and some folks of ill repute have come up with a cunning plan to exploit the president's pacemaker for their own benefit. By kidnapping the surgeon's daughter, they can come up with a contraption to attack the pacemaker and send the president to an early grave. Will they succeed, or will the Phantom find the surgeon's daughter in time so that they can put an end to the attacks, or will the wedding bells be funeral bells?
Very good, Steve. Look, I enjoyed this story. I think President Garanda's is probably a character that we haven't seen too much of. And so it was nice to kind of see a bit of a development of that character and of kind of, like we talked about Colonel Werber with the daily stories where there's that
Yeah.
character development, and it's nice to be able to see that with President Garanda as well. So I
Yeah,
enjoyed the story.
he's there. He just, it's good to see him, good to touch base every now and then.
Mm, mm. I really enjoyed, like, the story was really epic where he just kind of like goes from one end to the end and all that. I just think that I would have liked it if the way the guy was attacking Garanda with the camera was kept more of a mystery, just so it had that detective element to it. But that's a fairly minor criticism on the story, in my opinion.
Yeah, and overall, it was a fun story, like a good, solid story, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah. Now, for those of you who keep up to date with the weather situation here in Australia, um, and as we know, Dan lives up in Queensland, and he's a fair way from the coast, but he's just encountered some technical difficulties, and we're going to blame Cyclone Alfred on this. So he has been able to text us through and just say press on without him. So we'll struggle on in Dan's absence. But if he's able to kick back in, we'll welcome him again. But he might have been blown away a little bit, and but we'll see how we go. Hope everything's all safe. He seems in good spirits, so on the phone.
No worries, very good. So now the next issue is 1990, but then you've got a collector's replica in between it, and then you've got 1991, which is part two. So
1992's part two.
yeah, yeah. So should we maybe discuss 1991 and then do the two parts?
Well, we can give it as much time as we usually give those those issues, which is basically how good's the cover,
Yes.
and which is phenomenal. Alex Tripp once again just blew it out of the park with his cover there. When he was sharing on socials, the work in progress and that type of stuff. Oh, I can't wait to see that. Oh, it's in the replica series. Well, I might still read it. But having seen what stories are, we've got the Devil Road and the Imposter and the Toadman. Um, those are, if I remember correctly, those are some very good stories.
Yeah, yeah. Look, you can't fault the stories. It's just,
Mm.
again, it's the same thing we say every single podcast we do. It's the it's the way they're presented. It's like in Australia we have a saying as, mutton dressed up as lamb. And that's what it feels like with this. You've got an amazing cover, but then you have, and the early Frew stories were very chopped up, very ugly, very edited very badly. Like, have a like this little panel here.
What
That's
page are you on, mate?
so I'm on page 5 of the Frew comic, which you can see if you're on YouTube there. That's a Frew staff edited image right there. That's not even an original Wilson McCoy. There's no care and with the way that these classic stories are represented or reproduced. Like for instance, comic number 72 is actually Devil's Road Part 2, and 71, which is the next one, which is on page 27, is actually Devil's Road Part 1. So it would have made more sense if we had gotten these stories put in the right order. So then that way, for those who are actually reading these stories, they can actually read Devil's Road Part 1 before they read Devil's Road Part 2. So it's just little things like that that I think could be done a little bit better. In the Phantom Men magazine, what they tend to do is they write like a page or two about what happened in Frew, what happened in comics in Australia around that time, or what could they could be doing. I just think that could have been done a little bit better. But you can't fault the
Okay.
cover. The cover's amazing.
Cannot fault the cover. The cover just bursts out at you. So well
Mm.
done, Alex, on that one.
I hope Alex
Okay.
actually
Yep.
does it as like a poster for Supernova or Comic Con or something like that as
Oh,
well. I
that'd be
think it would
great.
look I think it would look very good.
Yeah. Oh, Metro Comic Con. He tends to come down to that one down here in Melbourne, so it'd be good to see him there. Okay, so that will leave us with Frew 1990 and Frew 1992, which are parts 1 and 2 of The Lost Valley by Falmang. Before we get started on this story, anyone who listened to our review of the annual may have heard me go a little bit off tap.
A little
I
bit.
was
You
I was
started your run over here in WA before you let go over in Victoria.
I wasn't a fan of the story, for reasons which I outlined in the review of it, and that is my opinion. You might think it's story of the year, and that's completely your opinion. There are things I liked about it, the art for one, and probably so. Balmain actually listens to us, which makes you feel a little bit weird. But I'll stick to my guns and say I still don't like the story. However, he has contacted us to just let us know a few things. Would you like to read what we've got here there, Jim?
Yeah, and look, first of all, thank you to all the creators that listen to us as well as the fans. We don't expect everyone to agree with us. We don't expect to get it always right. This is just our opinion. If you disagree with us, we would love to hear your points that you disagree with us. If we are wrong on anything, which I was wrong on something, let us know. Thought, and I had been informed by some people, that some of these stories were actually created before Frew had the license to create their own stories. Filming in his email, thanking us for giving us his opinion and reviewing his story in the annual, actually said that the stories were actually commissioned by Glenn, and that only one of his stories that has been created by Frew, which was the Expedition in the Jungle Part 2, was actually created or commissioned before Frew had the license back in 2017. So I appreciate Thelmang for correcting us on that one. He also wanted to explain, we talked about his writing style. He kind of agreed that some of the style has been lost a little bit in translation. And he tries to follow the 1920s writer. Now, this was new. I haven't read any of his work, and I don't believe you have either, Steve. His name
No,
is James Oliver Curwood.
I did check him out on Wikipedia. 100 years ago, he was one of the most popular writers going around. There was something there saying that, where did I see it? Curwood was the highest paid per word author in the world at the time of his death, which was 1927. He built himself a castle. This is in Michigan. He's got quite the legacy in literary and film, and many of his works have been actually over 180 movies have been based on or inspired by Curwood's novels and short stories. So that's quite the legacy that he leaves, and maybe we know his work without even knowing that we know it. So that's where Falmang's writing style was coming from. Reading there, he often has like animals and stuff as main characters, but there's also an underlying romantic element to his stories as well as the action in the foreground, which is something that I can see coming through in Falmang's work. Well, absolutely, there's always romance in Falmang's work, as well as the action. So I can see where he's coming from there.
I think it's important, and I love it when creators give us these glimpses behind the blue screen or behind the screen, whatever terminology you want to use, because I think I get a better appreciation of the work, the creator, the comic when you learn about this type of stuff. So, if creators, if you're out there and you've got stories coming up and there's something a little bit in the background that you wouldn't mind being shared, let us know. Because, I think I have a deeper or a better understanding or a better appreciation of Felmang's story because of this simple email that he has sent us. So, yeah, so look, a shout out to and a thank you for that as well.
Yep. And what about the explanation of the Zamyor name?
Yeah, that was interesting because a few fans and a few people have noticed this, and Felmain has had a history of aliases with his artwork. It could be Felmain, Fermain, Roy. It's all the same creator. Sometimes he kind of likes to play games, which is kind of fun. And a lot of it depends on like who his penciler is or his inker is, or and so Zamyor is so the last three digits, which is the YOR, backwards is Roy, which is Felmain. And then XAM, I believe it was one of his previous art students or colleagues, which has helped him on the art. So I think it's a nice little touch. Again, I think it's great that Dudley has included this in the message from the publisher in 1992. He references our interview with Felmain from a couple of years ago as well. So it's great how Dudley has done that, and then we're able to also include some of these little background informations on the podcast as well. So
I should have read the message from the publisher. I hadn't actually read that because after while I didn't want him to spoil the story, and I was going to read it
yeah.
afterwards, but yeah, I only just read the stories before coming on. So, well, let's get into the stories. So, the first one, part one, is entitled "The Lost Valley Maelstrom." The Phantom and Diana are water skiing off the coast of Eden behind the dolphins Solomon and Nefertiti. When they come ashore, they notice a strange creature in the sky which is hurtling towards them. It has been shot at by sailors. As the creature hits the ground, Phantom and Diana investigate and find an old Roman man who was riding it. The old man tells Phantom and Diana the history of his people and where he has come from. He also lets them know that their princess has been kidnapped by their sworn enemy, the Vikings, and implores Phantom and Diana to help. They have some directions, but will it be enough to get them to the old man's land? Maybe, with a bit of skill and a lot of luck, one of them may just stumble upon the secret entrance. But what will they find when they get there?
Now, maybe I missed something, but how did they know to go to the Himalayas? Did I miss
I always
something,
thought
or
it
did
was
that
like,
just
oh, I
kind of
missed something.
happen?
I thought it was supposed to be up in the Misty Mountains or something like that. And all of a sudden they're in the snow skiing down the Alps or something like that. I've missed that. So how the heck does
Yeah,
a pterodon go all the way from Europe to the east coast of Africa without being seen? So in my head, I'm saying it's in the Misty Mountains, even though they're snow covered and I've never seen the snow covered Misty Mountains.
well, it's not because here on page 16, you will say a couple of days later in a chalet on the slopes of the Himalayas.
Ah, right. Okay. I missed that.
So I'm not sure
And I
if
read it
I,
twice.
yeah, I'm not sure if I missed something in the way in the explanation with the old man or something, but I thought that bit was kind of clunky.
Mm.
It was just, yeah, it was confusing how we go from Eden in Africa, get the stories, then go to India slash China slash Tibet, whoever owns the Himalayas, whoever's fighting on which side. And that was just a little bit clunky for me and a little bit confusing. I didn't really like the way Diana starts shooting the bear.
Oh,
Um,
Dana's terrible in this.
yeah, I just thought that it was a little bit clunky, like this little bit. Like I understand how you have to get from Africa to the Lost Valley. So far, I've only read the two parts, but this part here is probably the part that I like the least out of the story.
Hmm. Oh yeah, it's not good. And as I reread it today, it reminds me like of a 1960s Fratello Sparta story. Diana's not put in a good light. She's not. I don't find her as a strong character in this. I can go on with my critiques. A
Yeah,
critique like last time was it's far too wordy, and actually this goes for I could maybe go and read about this, give the plot for the second part because my critiques will be the same, even though I did prefer part two to part one.
mm,
Um, but there was just a few things, like you said, a bit clunky, very much. It's set in the past because they're still boyfriend girlfriend, or I don't even know they're engaged. Can't remember in this one. So it is set in the past, and it has that 1960s, maybe not quite 1970s feel. Um, you can see, all of a sudden they go, they're off there for a mission, but they're going to go skiing down the side of the mountain, which kind of think, oh, it's like a James Bond moment. I'm thinking, oh, I think it's For Your Eyes Only, where he starts skiing down the hill with some young girl. Um,
Would have it
but
been better
yeah.
if we started the story in the Himalayas?
Um, you've still got to get the story with the old. Oh, well, maybe they're in the Himalayas. They've done something, and then the old man comes crashing down on his
Hmm.
pterodon or whatever it is. Um, yeah, or they're in India or they're in wherever. Um, might have helped too. But then you don't get Diana in a bikini.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah, we need Diana in a bikini. One
Mm.
thing I want to make mention is this story here. It was kind of funny. You got this part here. You got the Phantom on this lizard, I guess is what you'll call it, and he's got his
Yep.
knife, and he goes, "I don't want to hurt you. You're very rare. I'll just make a few scratches on your thick skin," while he's stabbing, I very much doubt that's what Filmang actually wrote, and I believe this was an edit point, knowing that King Features don't like having the Phantom killing animals, and so this was Frew making a few edits to get the story across from King Features. That's what I think happened here, but yeah,
Be good to hear if you're right or wrong on that one.
yeah. All right, so this is the end of it. Now there's a monster. The Phantom's gone through the Maelstrom, and now what happens in part two?
Well, before we get to part two, does the Jungle Patrol know about Eden? That's my sticking point too.
The Jungle Patrol
Like,
know about Eden. Why
yeah,
would you ask that?
because the pterodon came crashing down on Eden, and Diana and the Phantom decided to leave after they buried the fella, and said, "We'll get the Jungle Patrol to come and collect the pterodon. It'll be great for the museum."
It's a good point. It's a
Like,
good point.
number one, do the Jungle Patrol know about Eden? Number two, would have thought that'd be something you keep secret because all of a sudden you're gonna have scientists and stuff going, what the hell's going on? Particularly, with the big
Stegosaur,
dinosaur
Steggy.
thing,
Yeah, yeah,
and you got
yeah.
Steggy, you got everything. So yeah, I wasn't sure on that one. Anyway, let's
From
go to part
from
two. Oh
memory,
yeah,
hang on. You've now. I'm blaming you for this rabbit hole that we're going down because you raised this. There was a
try and
Tony
keep you on a
DePaul.
deep rein though, on a tight
There was
rein.
to Tony DePaul created a story where Eden has been classified as a natural park or nature reserve or something, and signed by President Luaga. So
Well,
even
Lager
if
definitely knows about Eden.
yeah,
That's the
yeah,
Jungle
so
Patrol.
yeah, so Luaga's protected Eden as part of presidential decree. So maybe that's what protects it from every Tom, Dick, and Harry going in there now.
Oh yeah. Okay, let's go to through 1992. The two, which is The Lost Valley, The Two Princesses, once again by Felmang. Um, oh, you've got a little, before we get started, you say that some panels are from another story?
It's just a couple of panels. There's a classic story. I think it's through 994, The Kingdom of the Amazons. A great story. One of my more favorite filmmaking stories. I think it was created by Donny Avenue or Scott Goodell from memory. And there's this panel here on the on the bottom of page 4. This one where the Phantom breaks the rope on page 7 at the top, and the bottom of page 7 where he exits out of the basement. Up. They all look familiar from this story. So for those who are on YouTube, I will highlight those and try and find them on the Kingdom of the Amazons. But a great story, and yeah, I enjoyed seeing that.
Okay. So, the plot. The Phantom has made it to the Lost Valley, but is held prisoner by the Vikings, as he may be a Roman spy. Might be the nose, Roman nose. Um, After a little treachery by the Viking princess, the Phantom is able to escape and rescue the Roman princess Calypso before she is sacrificed to the beasts of the stone forest. The two are soon recaptured, and the Viking princess is quickly falling for the Phantom. To ensure that he feels the same way, she gives him an elixir which alters his state of mind. Will the Phantom be strong enough to withstand the elixir's power? Will he remember who he truly is? Will he be able to help the Romans and the Vikings find peace? Wow, Not if the Viking Princess Frida has anything to do with it.
I think we both said that we didn't mind this story, this part.
I thought it was better than the first part,
Yeah. Look,
but that's not saying too much.
I think this story would work a lot better, in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, if it was featuring Flash Gordon or
Hmm,
Tarzan or something like that instead of the Phantom. Like,
maybe.
as
I think it'd be better if it
personally,
was more tightly written. Like, yeah, tighter. That's tightly, I don't think is a word.
personally, I like my Phantom in more of a realistic storyline, and I kind of get over the Lost Tribes and dinosaurs and stuff like that. That's not the Phantom that I enjoy. That's just my personal opinion. So I find it harder to enjoy these stories where I know that's not always the case, and I know other people do enjoy these stories, these type of stories. But yeah, just me personally, I find it harder to get into. But I was
Yeah,
pleasantly surprised with this. I didn't mind it.
I don't mind the fantasy type ones. I don't want them all the time, but I don't mind them. Um, my biggest issue is that, and it's an issue that I had with all of Felling's writing. I think it's just too wordy. Let the art tell the story. There's a I don't know, can't quite see what you got up there at the moment, but the Phantom does not need to give a running commentary on every moment that he's doing, or every movement, sorry, that he's doing. When he's breaking free out of the dungeon or whatever, out of the basement. Oh, I'm in a basement. I'll run up the stairs because I'm in a basement. Oh, there's a wall over there. I'll go and have a look up at the wall. There, there's a lot that the Phantom is saying, which he just doesn't need to be said because the art is there. Look over there, the reptile is bleeding. Just show the reptile bleeding. All you have to do is say, "Hey, look," and that was something that there was a critique the children's author Paul Jennings had, or a critique that was made to him when he was writing around the twist. So Paul Jennings, for those of you who are overseas, famous Australian author, particularly of children's books, and his books were fantastic. And stood the test of time from when we were kids. Now we're sharing with our own kids. But he also wrote. Oh, there was also this series called Round the Twist, which were based on his stories. He writes these short stories. For example, he had a character saying, "Look, there's a chest over there by the that's washed up on the ocean." And then the producers or whoever said, "Mate, you don't need to do that much." "Oh, what do I need to do?" So we've got a camera here. We can actually show the chest that's been washed up on the beach. All the character needs to say is, "Look," and which will direct the attention. That's what I mean by being too wordy. You don't need to give us everything because the art is there to help tell the story as well. The dialogue, cut the dialogue, just trim, 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 trim.
So is that something that we should do on our podcast, which are famous for going over 2 hours?
Well, we've given ourselves a time limit today. We'll see how we go.
Uh, um, look, my biggest criticism, I don't mind the wordiness, so to speak, because I can live with that. The thing that I dislike is the use of the magic potion and making the Phantom fall in love with these,
Yeah.
with these princesses and bombshells and, beautiful women and
I think he's got
who,
stronger willpower than that. My fan has a stronger willpower to overcome that sort of stuff. So I don't like him quite easily being succumbed into that elixir.
mm, yeah. Also, one question that I do have, and this is not a critique at filmmaking because Ray Moore, Wilson McCoy, and Cy Barry have all done that. Do grapes grow in jungles?
Say that again.
Do grapes, what you eat, do they
Oh,
grow
good, good.
in jungles?
I've got no idea. Haven't been to a jungle
I
that's
don't
got
think
grapes.
they do. But every time in every jungle story, when there's someone who's a king or something like that, they're always eating grapes.
Oh, see, I reckon that's to really denote their royalty because you can't get grapes where they are. They need to bring them in. And so just to
Yeah,
say that the only people who get the grapes are the royalty, the top cream of the crop. Okay,
mm,
the plebs don't get them. Only
fair enough.
the princesses that get the grapes.
But look,
Whereas not when I
yeah.
was growing up and playing schoolboy cricket, and then we'd duck under the fence and go grab the grapes off the vines. go back to Fine Leg and
Yeah.
munching on a few grapes.
Like the scenery is amazing. I'm enjoying some of these weird characters. It's just I'm intrigued where this story goes. Like I'm looking forward to part 3 because
See how it
I'm
goes.
intrigued where it goes.
Okay. Okay, so that was all the normal or regular issue proofs. We do have Giant Size 32, and the Phantom story in that is called The Haunted Mine by an unknown Fratelli Sparta creator. But we've got Giorgio Cambiotti and Lamberto Lombardi. They're the artists, are they? Rather than
Yes.
Yep. And the cover for that issue is done by Jeremy McPherson. So
Hmm.
the plot. Some miners are seeking a license to mine an old abandoned diamond mine up in the mountains. Not long after making the trek, they go missing. Soon a couple more go up, but they don't return either. Finally, a mine inspector turns up and disappears too. Everyone thinks the mine is haunted, what with the missing men and the eerie sounds that are emanating from the mine shaft. The Phantom goes to investigate. Will he become another missing man, or will he sort out this haunted mine, ghost to ghost? Now,
Now,
Jermaine, this is your favorite Sparta story.
look, I'm not sure if favorite's probably the correct word, but in reading this story, I felt like I was reading a Phantom story.
Yeah,
Like it felt like my Phantom. Like the Phantom's hiding, he's using tricks to fool people. He doesn't get bumped on the head from memory.
yes, he does.
Oh, does he?
Yep, as soon as he enters a
Okay.
mine, he gets bumped on the head.
But like he it feels like a Phantom story.
It
And
does, absolutely, I absolutely agree.
I feel that sometimes with some of these Sparta stories, it's like a poorly written story from its day. So, and I'm
Yeah,
not sure whether the story was like this or whether it was edited correctly with some, good storytelling by Dudley or whoever. But I enjoyed this story, and it kind of set me up in a good mood for the rest of the Giant Size comic.
cool. I have to agree with you. I did enjoy this story. By far one of the better Fratelli Sparta stories. There was only one issue, and it was a very minor issue. The Phantom knew something was going on at the mine, and he didn't go investigate until a lot later. That's my
Yeah,
only issue. Yeah.
yeah.
Um, yeah, but the
So
art's great, the storytelling's great, and like you say, it's a solid Phantom story.
Dan has been sending us messages. He wanted to say, great artwork. He enjoyed it. Reminiscent of Cy Barry. Nice simple storyline that was actually refreshing and enjoyable after some of the earlier stories.
Yeah. And Fratelli, I think, have a history of being very, very similar to Cyberry, if not swiped, very, very similar.
Hmm.
Okay. Well, thank you, Frew, for your issues. Thank you, Tony and his team over there for the KFS stories. Um, now we'll go overseas. What do you reckon, Jim?
Yep, let's go overseas if it was only this easy to do in real life.
A reminder, we are currently looking for reviewers who can review comics from Sweden, Finland, France, Italy, and some other locations that publish The Phantom. If you'd like to join the team with regular reviews, please contact us. Now let us switch to Christian from Germany as he reviews the two latest comics from Zauberstone. Please note that the Mad Cave Studios issue number 5 has been delayed, and we'll touch upon this in the news section. Okay, take it away, Christian.
Welcome to Chronicle Chamber. My name is Chris. Today we have a look at Zauberstern Comics number 17. It's with cover from Sal Velluto and Eugenio Matozzi. And we have 4 comics, 4 stories in it. And we have Phantomgefahr in der verbotenen Stadt, Teil 5 und 6. It's Trapped and the End from Peter David and Sal Velluto. And it's released in Brazil, Germany, and United States in 2015. 15? No. Oh, I don't know the date right now, but I like the Salviluto art very much. And we have part 6, the final story from Peter, David and Salviluto. And this story is also released in Brazil, Germany and United States. And I mean, it's the same artist, but to show you how he draws, I like it very much. The paper from Zauberstern Comics, like always, very good, very fine. And we have Das Gesetz des Dschungels, The Hunt for the Unknown Commander. It's a daily story from Tony DePaul and Paul Ryan. And I have a quick look and some advertising for the poster that you can put it out from the comic. I like the poster very much. And some advertising when you put it on the wall. You have already the comics to read and don't destroy the complete magazine. This story is also cool. And then, oh yeah, the comics are released in several states. And we have the last story here, Kampf der Masken. It's A Detent with Crime, the 233rd daily story from Tony DePaul and Paul Ryan. And it's about wrestling. I like wrestling very much. And it's also a cool story. It's a Zauberstern release. And thank God they make more comics like this. It's again 100 pages and $10. It's released this story in Australia, the Bahamas, Colombia, Finland, Germany, India, Jamaica, Mexico, Norway, the Philippines, El Salvador, Spain, Sweden, Turkey and United States. The next Zauberstern magazine is come out in April this year. Some advertising and the all-known back cover from Stefan Zombetsky. Thanks for watching.
Thank you very much, Christian. Now it's time for the news. And we're going to head off the news with Tony DePaul. He's doing okay, but he's also doing a bit poor. Well, his health's a bit of an issue at the moment. Is it, Jim?
Yeah, look, for those who've come in late or only listened to various podcasts, Tony DePaul, his cancer has come back. He was going to join us for the 300th issue. But the reason why he didn't join us, which might have been just as well, because otherwise that podcast would have gone on forever if Tony had to answer all his questions as well. He was unable to attend because of some treatment. All the questions that were given that were going to be asked and asked afterwards and beforehand were given to Tony. He's written a written response to all of those that is on our website. So just, yeah, look, I just wanted to highlight that. Our thoughts are with Tony. He seems to be in pretty good spirits. He's still riding his motorbike when he can. So, yeah, so, our thoughts are with you, Tony. Hopefully, things continue to improve or remain steady and yeah, because we enjoy what you're doing with the Phantom.
Yes, all the best, Tony. Now we have the Phantom video game. It's not far away. The launch of the Phantom video game. It's it's going to be released on March 12th. I'm so beside myself. That's, as time of recording, that's 4 days away. We're recording on Saturday the 8th of March. This game is to be released on Tuesday. Can you believe that it's so close to coming out? There's been a playable demo that's been released of the first 3 levels. It's been released on Steam, and will be there until the release date on the March 12th. Pre-orders of physical copies are now open. You've got the deluxe plastic case, the physical game, the original soundtrack CD. I hope you've still got a CD player in your house there, Germ. You got your combo guide card, 3 art cards of art from the video game, and skull design enamel pin. Mate, what an absolute package. Now, the deluxe pack will cost $64.99 US, which is about $100 AU, Australian, €60, 700 SEK / NOK, and what's that, 5,650 Indian rupees? I'm assuming that one is there, Jen. Look at me with my knowledge of international currency abbreviations. Now, while the standard physical copy will cost $34 or $35, really, $34.99 US, which is about 55 AU, $30 30 euros, I should say, 400 SEK, and 3,050 Indian rupees. And if I remember correctly, the digital, that's what, about $20?
Yes, I didn't include that in the show notes, but yeah, that's about right. So
that's about right. I remember hearing that somewhere.
Yeah.
So YouTube video level plays of level 1 and level 4 are currently online, not by us, but by another fella. Xbox digital release is delayed. He's had to go through a couple of extra hoops to get it on Xbox. It was just a matter of talking to the right people and making sure he meets the right people there, I think. So the delay is about April, but you can still, it's all right for me because I've got a Switch as well as an Xbox, so I'll get it on the Switch, then I'll get it on the Xbox. And there was a competition. This was the competition for the signed Billy Zane toy, correct? Oh, I shouldn't say toy, action figure. No, it wasn't Billy Zane, sorry, it's a Phantom action figure signed by Billy Zane. The competition has been drawn, so congratulations to Armin K and the runners-up, Georgie.
I reckon that's George Djokovic, who of course is one who was the designer of the NECA figurines.
Oh, right. So I always thought you meant the tennis player.
I don't know.
Dean G, Luke M, Eleanor E, and Phil M. So congratulations to all of you, mate. The excitement is building for this game.
Now, that was a lot to kind of rattle through. So hopefully everyone kind of got that. Look, I guess if you're wanting a physical copy, so say for instance, if you're a collector, you're probably going to get a physical copy because it's something that you can display. So those pre-orders are open now. Now, if you're a gamer, you're probably more interested in the digital release because that's something you can get onto straight away. So, yeah. So now, Steve, I'm expecting you and Scott, who both are gamers, to actually, when this comes out, to do some reviews of the game and of the levels and stuff like that. So
you don't have to ask me. I'm going to do that anyway.
So we will begin, and Steve and Scott will discuss whether they they each do a level and stitch them together, or whether they alternate levels. They'll discuss that. But we will be producing some videos of some level plays of either 1 or 2 or both of them playing the games, and they will be on YouTube as we get them. So we're still to nut out some of the finer details of that, but I'm looking forward to that because as someone who's not exactly much of a gamer, it might entice me to actually play the game. So yeah, so my daughter does have a Switch, and then she's just brought a second game. So now we'll be able to play, and we'll be able to get them to be able to, one can be the Phantom and one can be Diana. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that happens in the Parker household as well.
I can't wait. And be nice. Excuse me. There's ability to try and beat each other's top score. So might be, Scott coming for you. Rightio. Moving on from the game, we've got we've mentioned this on earlier podcasts about Moonstone and Mad Cave releasing comics this year. So Moonstone released 2 covers for the Bystander / Phantom issue number 1. All right. So what have we got going on here, Jeremy? Have you got the? I haven't looked at the.
Yeah, now I believe, from what I understand, the first issue comes out 28th of May. So it's not that far away. If you're in Australia or in Europe or whatever, you need to talk to your local comic book shop about getting this in. They can get it in. Dan has given us a comment. These are things that he was going to discuss, obviously, before his internet and his part of the world shut down. Now, there is the Diamond distributors have filed for bankruptcy. I talked to my local comic book shop about this. There is another distributor, and he said that most comic book shops can still get stuff in. So you just have to, comic book shops just have to be a little bit more organized or a little bit more kind of shop around. If
The one
for
in Melbourne that
whatever,
I went to didn't seem to have an issue.
yeah, if you can't get a hold of it, Moonstone will be releasing these on their website. And I believe on their website they will be having specific alternative covers that aren't from shops. So shops will be having issue A or 1A or cover A and cover B, and then Moonstone might be having other covers as well. So it's
They do
worth
like the
keeping an
alternative
eye on.
covers, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's Moonstone, 28th of May. Mad Cave Studios. At the moment, we've only got issue 0, which comes out on Free Comic Book Day at the start of May. I've spoken to my LCS about the rest of the issues, but they've got no word on it. Any word in your part of the world there, Jim?
No, so I'm assuming if issue 0 comes out in May, it will probably be a June, July for issue 1. Now, we
Cool.
do have the artist announcement, which is Russell Mark Olson. Now, from what I understand, is that I believe he's doing issue 0, but not doing issue 1, 2, etc., etc.
Okay.
Yeah. So I haven't heard who the ongoing artist is, and I believe Russell is only doing issue 0. We will find out about that as we go in.
And he has a slight link to Phantom History. He was raised in
Yeah.
the same city as Lee Falk. Well, there you go.
Yeah. We Chronicle Chamber conducted a couple of emails with him, and he goes, I know the Phantom. Lee Falk was, raised in the same city as I, was raised in. So there's a nice little symmetry, a nice little relationship there, which was nice to hear. Again, talk to your local comic book shop, get yours in. If you can't, you'll be able to get it via their website. And again, like Moonstone, Mad Cave do put on their website where you can buy them, and they also have some alternative covers as well. But I know, like in Perth, Quality Comics has already said that they're ordering Mad Cave and Moonstone in for me. So if you're in WA, talk to Quality Comics. You said your one in Melbourne
I
is
got an
doing it.
all-star nowadays.
Yep. So look, there's a couple. There's Melbourne and WA. I believe Dan said that Kaboom over in Toowoomba are trying to get them in as well. So you just need to talk to your local comic book shop. And look, most of us bag and board our comics. So, ring them up, email them, say, hey, can you pre-order these? Get as many alternative covers as possible. And yeah, get them in.
Still sticking with Mad Cave Studios, we've got Defenders of the Earth. There's been a little bit of a delay here with issue number 5, which features the battle between the Phantom and his brother, which seems to be a bit of a trope with Defenders of the Earth. Whenever there's Defenders of the Earth or Defender of the Earth style things going on, we've got, is it Kurt Walker, isn't it? Phantom and
Yes.
Kurt Walker. In the original, I think it was some sort of weather god type thing he was. So we get that in issue number 5, except he's not the weather god type thing. He's actually dressed himself up as the Phantom and reckons he's got the right to wear the skull belt and the rings. There is a new artist for issue number 6, but Jim will be back for issues 7 and 8. And Dan, the author,
Yeah, not
has
our Dan.
yeah, I had to read that. But hang on, he has plotted a new series, and it depends on sales for series one. So hopefully, people have been picking this up and reading it, so we can get a series two.
Mm, mm. On our website, we've linked to another podcast. Can't remember the name of the podcast. It was the War Comics or something like that. About a chat for about an hour. He talked a lot about just, about everything, his whole career and stuff like that. Defenders of the Earth, Phantom related chat was about 15 minutes. It was quite interesting. It's worth having a listen to. That's where he talks about a lot of the news that we just talked about as well. So, yeah, like you said, hopefully people are enjoying it, and then I would like to see more from series two. I'm warming to the series, and I think it has potential for more.
I certainly hope so. Um, I, I've probably called on the series only because it's been quite so long. So when the next issue comes out, I'll probably have to reread everything to remember where
Yeah.
we're up to. Okay, now we spoke about the video game earlier, but now we've got I'm pretty sure, haven't we always spoken about this? The poker machine? We haven't spoken about this on the podcast. So there's a new
Ah,
poker machine coming out, and not doesn't quite have the same collectability as the one back in what 2009 or whatever it was. It had the bust on top, which now a lot of collectors now have. But there is a new Phantom gaming machine.
yeah, thanks to a fan who's requested to stay nameless, who was over in the gaming expo in Spain, and he came across this, and we've taken some videos which we've included on our website, our YouTube, and stuff like that. If you're watching YouTube, or if you're not watching YouTube and you haven't seen it, listen to the podcast on YouTube, because while we're talking, we will have the videos cycling through of that. Look, I must admit, I'm not quite sure if our Phantom should be promoting a terrible
It's
addiction like a pokie machine. So it might be, but look, it's happened before. We've seen the Phantom with things like cigarette lollies, ashtrays, beer mugs,
beer.
beer. And so a lot of these other things, which is not exactly something that the Phantom promotes with his healthy living and healthy lifestyle and stuff like that. So I guess if he can't promote poking machines, he shouldn't be doing some of these other things as well. So, yeah.
Maybe it'll get $1 out of me, but that'll be about it if I see it. But I don't tend to do. They just suck life out of people, in my opinion. That's my opinion.
It's funny, we went on a cruise April, Easter last year. And on the cruise they give you $50 credit or something in the casino. And so my wife went there to just basically, you got to use it. So it's like, well, we might as well use the money because they've already taken the money out of our account. We might as well spend it. First night, she came back with $70. She goes, trying to lose it all, but I've come back with more. Second, the next night, she came back with even more money. And and you couldn't, and it took her the whole time to actually lose that whole $50. And I think she
Yeah.
ended up
Oh,
cashing some of it out. So
yeah. Yeah. If I'd come back with, with $70, well, that's going straight in back in my pocket. You had your chance to take it from me. You didn't. It's back in my pocket. Okay, what we got? We can vote for the best cover published in Phantom in 2024. Also, open is the best adventure, and entries close in the first week of April. So that's about a month away. So get your votes in now. We have a link on our website, do we?
yes, yes. And look,
Absolutely. We always do.
yeah, these things are important because it enables and it helps the editors, whether it's Phantom, whether it's Frew, which we do over the new year, and we've got a news survey coming out as well, which we'll talk about that in our one of our next podcasts. But these things are important because it tells publishers, it tells creators, it tells the head honchos over at King Features and all these type of things what fans are enjoying. So, because not everyone writes in a forum letter to Frew or to Phantom Ends or even for KFS. Sometimes these are the only ways that publishers and creators can find out what are enjoyable by the fans. So make sure you go on and vote. When we create our next survey, which we'll talk about soon as well, make sure you get on there and vote. You know, we try and entice you with prizes, which are all well and good, but if you want a better Phantom, you need to get on there and vote.
You've heard it here. Go and do it. You want change? Well, if you don't want change, go vote. Next up, we move from Scandinavia over to India. Shakti Comics at the Kolkata Book Fair. And I always stop up his name, which I really shouldn't, and I
Suaz.
apologize. Suaz is going to write an article, or he might even provide a video on his experience, which had some Phantom influence. So looking forward to seeing that.
Yeah, just to
Oh,
quickly
okay.
jump in. Look, Suarez still does our video reviews of the comics. For those who don't know, he's actually at university at the moment, so his time is quite limited. If you're out there and you do read the Regal comics and the Shatki comics, and you would like to help review some of these comics, get in contact with myself and Suarez, and maybe there's no reason why we can't have two people reviewing the comics and alternating and taking turns, because we want to, as Chronicle, provide reviews of comics from around the world, including India, where a lot of our viewers and readers and listeners are from. So if you're out there and you have the ability, you have the time to be able to help us and Suaz in reviewing these, please get in contact with us, because we would like to be able to provide regular reviews and regular updates of the news that is coming out from comics in India.
Okay, so we've gone from a Kolkata book fair, and we're getting into the comic cons, the supernovas, all the conventions that are going to be happening here in Australia. It's getting to that time of the year.
We have an article on our website where we list all the Australian conventions, the dates, and the artists. We're just going to talk about the first couple of months, next couple of months.
Yeah.
Every podcast, as guests get announced, we will discuss this, but we can only know what we find. So if you're in America and you know of Alex Suviak or Keith Williams or Mad Cave Studios are attending events and stuff like that, please let us know. Again, we can only do what we get told. Like the Phantom, we want to have 1,000 eyes and 1,000 ears around the place. Please help us identify them, because we want to promote them. We want to promote the Phantom. This is just Australia for the next couple of months. Sorry, Steve.
Yeah. And this we've spoken about. I'm about to talk about Australia, but if you know about ones overseas, that'd be good too. So I'm going to start off. I'm going to go state by state. So Melbourne, we've got Melbourne Supernova is coming up at the end of March, so 29th and 30th of March. The guests confirmed there are Alex Tripp, Jamie Johnson, and Dean Rankin. Unfortunately, I can't make it to Melbourne Supernova, and my son Jeremy is really cut up about it. It's the same
Why can't
weekend
you
as
go?
it was my brother's 40th, and I already said I was going to that. And it's on the other side of the state. It can't happen. Jeremy's a bit cut up about that. All right, so Melbourne's got a few things coming up. March 29th, 30th is the newest one, the earliest one. Then from one side of the country to the other, Perth Oz Comic Con is on April 5th to 6th, which is a week after the Melbourne Supernova. And Alex Tripp is a confirmed guest there. Then heading north to, I'm about to say Dan's part of the world, but it's not quite, but it's in the same state, but it's a very, very big state. Up to the Gold Coast Supernova on April 12th and 13th, and so far confirmed we have Alex Tripp, Daniel Picciotto, and Dean Rankin up at the Gold Coast Supernova on April 12th to 13th. And of course, there's the big Sydney Phantom weekend on June 21, 22. Frew will have a booth at Sydney. The Lee Falk Memorial Bengalas Explorer Club dinner has been announced. No news on guests, etc. yet. Please go to their website to add your name to the mailing list if you are interested. Okay. That's it. That's all we got at the moment. That's all the news. That's all the news. That's good news.
Yeah, exactly. Look, thank you for listening and watching us. Our website is chroniclechamber.com and our email is chroniclechamber@gmail.com. We would love to hear your thoughts, your feedback. We definitely want your feedback and your opinions if you agree or disagree with us. You can do that via social media or over at the YouTube channel, or you can send us an email. You can subscribe to us via YouTube or through your favorite podcast apps, including iTunes and Spotify. Thank you. Please get in contact with us. And as always, happy fandoming.
Happy fandoming. Just in case you want a little bit of look behind the curtain, we gave ourselves a time limit to be done by 6 o'clock. It's 6:0. Well, it's just over 6:04. We've done really well, Jern. Happy fandoming, everyone.
And stay safe, Dan, and everyone over there as well.
Enemies beware, the phantom's always there, but you won't find the phantom.